A very good evening and welcome to Eswatini TV's 8 p.m. news broadcast. My name is Nondobego Ntsapgelwago. Let's take a look at tonight's headlines. The delegation commissioned by their majesties to deliver meat parcels to Mbali has now moved to the Hoho region. The Deputy Prime Minister has launched the Situational Analysis Report on sexual and gender-based violence. The Acting Minister of ICT has officially launched the country's ICT Master Plan. And now the news in detail. The delegation, which has been commissioned by their majesties to deliver meat parcels to Mbali Regiment, has now moved to the Hoho region. Hundreds of Mbali are expected to receive the parcels at different chiefdoms across the region.
The delegation congregated at Buhleni Royal Residence before travelling to different chiefdoms. The bad weather conditions made travelling to some parts of the region difficult, as most roads have been damaged due to heavy rains. But this did not deter the delegation from visiting easily accessible areas where they delivered the meat parcels to delighted maidens. Induna Mbali Nonduduzo Zubuga is making use of the royal assignment to remind maidens to keep themselves pure.
Kungaba nje ukukhuthaza ebuthweni lembali ukuthi aliqhubeke libutho lembali lihlale ngentombi aliqhubeke litibambe ngithi mina buntombi bude umnyaka ngiqhubeka uhlale ngentombi siyawufika isikhathi khona lapho sekufuneka khona sekukhona nawuva ukuthi yonke intombi yakhula lapho khona sebata kuqela bathi sewukhulile baye kubakini bayokuqela ngithi nje angikhuthaza kakhulu ukuthi imbali ihlale ngentombi sibhlungu thina silibutho lembali siyadiva inombolo tekutethwala ukuthi tebantu tembali tiyenyuka ngaba nje kusho embalini ukuthi imbali kude lokuphelako chubekani nihlale ngentombi qhubekani nitithanze ningajaku umdzaka litulungakani ngoba lokho kuyasibambelela endleleni tete emaphupheni ethu ngoba ukhanze ukuthi sesiyadileyeka ngesilungu basiyadileka lamathuba ethu ekungasithole into letintsite bese ayancipha abangoshana.
Maidens from about 69 chiefdoms across the region will receive the parcels before the delegation proceeds to yet another region. On the news, I'm Sandile Makanya reporting with Zwele Masugu in the Hoho region.
The Deputy Prime Minister, Themba Masugu, has officially launched the Situational Analysis on Sexual and Gender-Based Violence report. This report will be used to inform programming interventions and resource mobilization for ending violence in society.
The DPM's office, in collaboration with UNESWA, conducted the study to establish whether there is a spike in acts of violence or this is a result of increased reporting in the media. Data collected revealed that 66.7% cases were reported on physical abuse, 66.7% on emotional abuse, 58.3% on sexual abuse, 25% on child abuse. The study reveals that the drivers of violence were a result of alcohol, drug abuse, level of education, poverty, jealousy, and many others. And the recommendations were that conditions for granting bail should be tightened, the sentences for GBV should be made longer, and more sexuality education must be provided to all people with disabilities. The DPM says the report will be used to inform programming, interventions and resource mobilization for ending violence in society.
Saphuma saya kubantu ngoba sibona abantu bakhuluma ngayo yonke indlela ngeSODV. Saphuma sathi siye kubantu. Sakhwela emabhasi, sagena etimakethe, sadlala bomlabalaba sifuna kuva abantu ukuthi bakhuluma ini ngalendzaba yalomthetho wa 2018. Lehulumende nesive sawakhela kuvikela abantu nokubuyisa sithunti eMaswatini.
Dr. Sonene Nyawo, who is the chairperson of the research team, says there are long-term solutions to these findings.
The solutions included women empowerment and property rights, social protection, welfare for persons living with disability, the evolution of Siswati law and custom, ending the culture of tolerance and silence, equality, non-discrimination, and the eradication of gender norms.
The report will be available in the DPM's office website and all national libraries. The DPM urges Eswatini to read and understand this report in order to help society to prevent domestic violence. Reporting, I'm Lungilile Makakula with Mbangwa Dube in Babane.
The Deputy Prime Minister, Themba Masuku, has commended the role played by retired and current teachers in the country of ensuring that children are afforded the opportunity of an education. The Deputy Prime Minister said this on this day when the globe celebrates World Teachers' Day.
The World Teachers' Day was first commemorated in 1994 on the 5th of October. This year's theme is Leading in Crisis, Reimagining the Future. The theme was selected because COVID-19 has affected the education process, therefore creating challenges for teachers across the world and a need to revisit the method of giving education. The Deputy Prime Minister says being a teacher for so many years, he knows the pressures of standing in front of learners. Therefore, he commends the amazing work done by retired and current teachers countrywide. He says this pandemic has had an impact on the way teachers execute their duties, which to some is challenging.
Had it not been for teachers, we would still be stuck in the dark ages of civilization. But the teachers have moved us to where we are. We acknowledge them, we appreciate them, we really want to thank them. We do this from the office of the Deputy Prime Minister in this case because children, most of whom are in school, are a responsibility of the office of the Deputy Prime Minister. So once again, I'm sitting here. The position I have today, I went through many hands of different teachers who, most of whom I thought were harsh, but they were really getting me to be ready for the responsibilities of later in life. So I think as we all sit here, we've come through the hands of teachers. Then we want to say to teachers, siyabonga, qhubekani nento umsebenzi nitinigele.
The Deputy Prime Minister has urged teachers to continue to execute their duties with a positive attitude. Reporting, I'm Lungilile Makakula with Mbangwa Dube in Babane.
The acting Minister of ICT, Khumalo, has officially launched the country's ICT Master Plan, which seeks to improve collaboration between all government ministries. According to the minister, currently all government departments work in silos. The launch was held at the Hilton Garden Inn Hotel in Mbabane.
According to the acting minister of ICT, Khumalo, ICT developments are cross-ministerial cooperation and horizontal integration work in the country, and it must be planned and implemented coherently, but not in silos. However, in order to achieve the better management and governance of ICT development and reduce the redundant investment or conflicts, the Ministry of ICT plans to conduct the ICT Master Plan via bilateral cooperation with the Republic of China on Taiwan.
It is recognized that ICT initiatives have a major role in the country's development, particularly when it comes to economic growth. However, if not properly mentioned, rather managed, it could have a negative impact to the economic growth. Eswatini has established our Royal Science Technology Park, RSTP, which shows that ICT has already been recognized as a great catalyst for the development of the country.
The ambassador of the Republic of China Taiwan in the kingdom, Jeremy Liang, says Taiwan is advanced in the technology sector. Therefore, they will make sure that they share their vast experience and expertise with the kingdom of Eswatini in order to achieve its desired goal, which is attaining first world status by 2022.
I think we need to take this opportunity because now ICT is the future. And Eswatini has been designated as headquarters for the AE trade in the Southern Africa.
The ICT Master Plan was formulated and conducted by an expert from the Republic of China, Taiwan, Jerry Wang. For Eswatini TV News, I am Zoto Adlamini with Musum Konda in Babane.
The delegation from the Republic of China, Taiwan, has already conducted a feasibility study assessment on the establishment of the proposed thermal power project that will be constructed at the Lupugu area in Lubombo. This was announced by the Minister of Natural Resources and Energy, Peter Bembe, when the delegation presented the fact findings on the feasibility of the thermal power project. The event was held at the Mountain Inn Hotel in Mbabane.
Since the country is in the process of generating electricity through thermal power to further reduce the amount of power Eswatini imports from South Africa, a delegation from the Republic of China, Taiwan, which arrived in the country last week Sunday for a feasibility study at Lupugu, the site earmarked for the project, Minister of Natural Resources and Energy Peter Bembe says the delegation has officially presented fact findings regarding the proposed project, and so far they have approved the site at Lupugu area in the Lubombo region.
They were looking and confirming issues that were raised in the feasibility study, and they found that everything is according to what was established in the feasibility study. And we are very happy that even some of the things were surprising to them, that they didn't even think that those issues were available, but they found out that there is already availability of some of the issues. So here they were looking at the availability of water, availability of transportation, railways and roads. They found that everything is in order and the project is ready to go.
The minister further stated that if all goes according to plan and with the availability of funds, construction of the thermal power station will soon begin. Reporting, I am Zoto Adlamini with Musum Konda in Babane.
The National Population Policy Review consultative meetings being carried out by the Ministry of Economic Planning and the United Nations Population Fund have moved to the Hoho region. On Monday, the ministry, led by Minister Dr. Tambo Gina and the UNFPA, met with chiefs from Hoho to discuss issues hindering development in communities.
The meeting's objective between the Ministry of Economic Planning and Development, UNFPA and Hoho chiefs was to get contributions and suggestions from the traditional leaders on development tactics for Eswatini by reviewing the national population policy. The Minister of Economic Planning and Development, Dr. Tambo Gina, says the population in the country is decreasing, which is worrying for the ministry as well as the future of the country's economy.
Linani lekhula likhanzeke lingu-0.7%, alifiki ngisho 1%. Kuyinto ke lena lapha khona sixoxisana nabobabe batawubeka kumbe likhambi lingaphuma ukuthi yini lengendiwa.
The minister says the ministry also wanted to discuss with the chiefs about the issues faced by community members, which includes gender-based violence and teenage pregnancies. The chiefs expressed their views and opinions on what can be done to revive the country's economy. Some of the views from the chiefs include putting the youth in the forefront of development, changing curriculum in schools, and reviewing career guidance lessons.
Nyalo nje lo singenelwe iCovid labanye bantwana abafuni kubuyela esikolweni ngokuthi babonile ukuthi kulesikhathi lebasitholile bangena lapha emahlathini bakhati
uma abantwana bakhula kungadolo sibatawe ndayini kude lokutasisi akube nale misebenzi nala masilabhaza esikolweni asashinje.
The Minister of Economic Planning and Development says without instilling enough knowledge about self-development strategies as well as putting in place resources to achieve their goals, the country will remain behind in terms of development. He says in that regard, it is necessary for the youth centers to be revived. Reporting for Eswatini TV News is Pumapim Msweli, Pigs Peak.
The Minister of Education, Lady Howard Mabuza, has announced the new Southern African Snatherine University, SANU, Board of Directors, which is led by Ngosnathi Ngambule. The minister has advised the board to explore other possibilities to supplement the institution's budget received by way of subvention to meet its strategic plans and goals.
The SANU board members are Dr. Simiso Mkonda, who is the deputy chairperson, Professor Winnie Inhlengetwa, the secretary, Dr. Ndombenhle Dlamini, who is a member, Thuli Kametse, Bongiwe Dlamini, Lucky Gama, Fortunate Bembe, and Samuel Njali. The Minister of Education, Lady Howard, says she hopes that there will be no disturbances in the institution because the ministry, the mission, trust that the board will work together to maintain a peaceful learning environment in the institution.
Remember, it is healthy to disagree to agree on issues discussed on the board. However, make sure that issues remain within the board and honor all decisions, even if you have a dissenting view, to ensure public confidence in the board's resolutions. Attend all board meetings if possible, because your role is indeed to provide solutions to issues pertaining to the institution, and therefore your participation is very important. And always try to come prepared to board meetings to be able to actively engage in discussions. Most importantly, the board has the responsibility to explore other plausible possibilities to supplement the institution budget received by way of subvention and student tuitions to meet the institution's strategic plans, goals, and objectives.
The board will be in office for a period not exceeding 3 years. Reporting, I'm Lungilele Makakula with Mbongwa Dube in Babane.
Of Agriculture, Jabulani Mabuza, has launched a household soap, detergents making and hygiene project. The project is funded by WaterAid Eswatini to the tune of over 1.2 million emalangeni.
The household soap, detergents making and hygiene project training that was launched by the Minister of Agriculture, Jabulani Mabuza, which is funded by WaterAid, is expected to benefit 4,000 women. Meanwhile, 1,500 of the trained women are going to get capital to start their businesses. Minister Mabuza appreciates the sponsorship from WaterAid, where women will be capacitated in soap production, among other things.
This is the project we are launching today and is focusing and promoting household soap production, detergents making and hygiene trainings, hence contributing to the controlling of the spread of COVID-19. The support by WaterAid is highly welcomed. However, I have to stress that more interventions are still needed to attain an economically secured, healthy and prosperous nation. There is still a need to address people's inability to obtain frequent nutrition meals, tackle high rates of infectious diseases and improve hygiene and sanitation practices.
WaterAid Country Director Ncamiso Mhlanga says this is one way the company is assisting government in the fight against COVID-19. He says one of the ways to fight the virus is good hygiene.
The purpose of this program is to help Swazis to make sure that in the rural areas they are able to manufacture and make soap products.
Speaking on behalf of the home economists, which are going to benefit from the trainings, Xoliso Simelane says the project will change the lives of many women in the country.
We'll be targeting 1,500 women who will then venture into business of producing the detergents and as well as the soap making.
Research by WaterAid suggests that 50% of people do not wash their hands after using the toilet. For Eswatini TV News, Fortune Dlangamandla, Ezulwini.
We will now take a look at the COVID-19 update from the Ministry of Health. The Ministry of Health has reported 10 new confirmed COVID-19 cases in the country in the past 24 hours. In a statement issued by the Minister for Health, Lizingosi, a total of 173 results were received, out of which 10 people tested positive for coronavirus, bringing the total number of cases to date to 5,579. The ministry has also reported one new death in the last 24 hours, bringing bringing the total number of deaths to 112. The deceased is a 68-year-old man from the Hoho region. The statement further shows that there are 316 active cases, 5,141 have recovered, 112 have died, and 10 have been registered for care. Looking at the cumulative confirmed COVID-19 cases by region, Manzini region has 2,518 cases, Hoho region has 2,102 cases, Shiselweni has 481 cases, and Lubombo has 478 cases of coronavirus. The Ministry of Foreign Affairs and International Cooperation has met with members of the Ministry's Portfolio Committee and Senate for in-depth discussions on several international conventions which Eswatini has signed. Acting Principal Secretary in the Ministry, Vuyile Dlamini, says the conventions in question are those that have been endorsed by Cabinet and the Attorney General, Sfiso Khumalo.
Acting Principal Secretary in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and International Cooperation, Vuyile Dlamini, says the international conventions, which are currently being discussed with members of the Ministry's Portfolio Committee in Senate, have already been endorsed by Cabinet Ministers and the Attorney General.
These instruments have been cleared by the Cabinet of the Kingdom of Eswatini, and the Attorney General as well has gone through them and has approved them in terms of content and substance, so that we can then go and bring them to Parliament for purposes of their ratification. Today's event is graced by the Ministry's Portfolio Committee from the House of Senate, where we are taking them through these individual instruments with a view of actually obtaining their buy-in in terms of speeding up the process, remembering that we are in this situation where we are faced by the COVID-19 pandemic, and we are working in a way which is not normal. It's a new normal, but it is critically important that we discuss with them first, so that we will be in a position to be speaking from, or maybe we'll be singing from the same hymn book, as it were.
Chairperson of the Ministry's Portfolio Committee in Senate, Senator Lekina Makakula, says the committee is pleased to work on these conventions and to engage with the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and International Cooperation before the conventions are fully adopted by the Kingdom.
Kutawusisita kakhulu na lama convention na lemithetho seyehla iya eParliament. Sesitawuthi eParliament sikubuke sidebate sinolwazi ukuthi sikhuluma ngani lapha, asifaki live exhibition.
The international conventions that were discussed by the Portfolio Committee are 13. These conventions include trade agreements among others. For Eswatini TV News, Fortune Dlangamandla, Lungelele Makakula, and Mbonga Dube Mbabane.
Principal Secretary in the Ministry of Public Service, Sipho Tabete, has warned fire and emergency services workers who have been engaged in strike action, which began on the 1st of October, that this protest is illegal and that government will be forced to invoke the no work, no pay rule on all the department's workers who have not been reporting for duty.
On the 1st of October 2020, all National Fire and Emergency Services workers were expected to start working under the newly introduced 3-shift system, which came with Circular number 4 of 2020. With this newly implemented shift system, several changes came into effect for this department, such as that government would no longer pay overtime allowances for fire and emergency services workers, which was one of many ways that were introduced to scale down on the civil services high wage bill. However, the new circular seems to have not gone down well with most of the fire service department's workers, most of whom have been reported to have engaged in a strike action since the beginning of October. Principal Secretary in the Ministry of Public Service, Sipho Tabete, warns that this strike action is illegal.
The Ministry of Public Service
would like to take this opportunity to inform and also warn all the employees who are engaged in the unlawful strike action that the failure by Eswatini National Fire Service employees to report for duty when rostered using the newly implemented 3-shift system is not only viewed as a gross misconduct, but is also illegal as it constitutes a strike action.
Tabete further warned that disciplinary action will be taken against those found not to have complied with provisions of this new circular.
Government as the employer will invoke the no work, no pay principle. In addition to the above, each employee shall have to show cause why disciplinary actions should not be instituted against them.
The Principal Secretary made an assurance that government will ensure that fire and emergency services are provided at all times. For Eswatini TV News, Hlengwen Love with Mbongwa Dube in Babane.
And in today's sports news, the Eswatini Sports Recreational Council says not having dedicated sports administrators for some sports association is the reason why many associations fail to meet some of the minimum requirements of the council. Dumsani Ndiwane, who is the communications officer, says many administrators are doing sports part-time. He was speaking in an interview with the Eswatini TV sports journalist in Babane.
Sports associations in the country that are still trying to find their feet are facing difficulties of meeting certain minimum requirements demanded by the Eswatini Sports Recreational Council. This has resulted in many associations being deregistered from the mother body, and they do not get any grants. Some of the requirements include gender balance, financial report, activity report, yearly meetings, and number of teams that should be found in all regions of the country. The Communications Office of the Sports Council says the challenges are because many of the administrators are in sports part-time.
We do acknowledge the challenges that some of our associations face, more especially because most of them are volunteers, so they are in sports part-time, which means they are volunteering their services to sports. You find that in most instances they fail to hold meetings, they fail to hold AGMs, and they even struggle to actually have the activities taking place. So it becomes a problem when it's time for them to report back to the Sports Council if they failed to meet any of those obligations.
Duwane says they are working on helping the association that cannot meet the requirements, trying to find a way that can keep all the sporting courts active, as they do not want to lose any of them. Reporting for Eswatini TV Sports News, I am Patizo Msibi, Mbabane.
We've come to the end of our news bulletin, but before we wrap up, let's take a quick recap of the headlines. The delegation commissioned by their Majesties to deliver meat parcels to Mbali has now moved to the Hoho region. The Deputy Prime Minister has launched the Situational Analysis Report on sexual and gender-based violence. The Acting Minister of ICT has officially launched the country's ICT Master Plan. Eswatini, that is all the news we had for you tonight. Up next is the weather forecast. Good night and God bless.